What's up, guys? Welcome to G Whisky. My name is Jeff. This is a channel where I offer my thoughts and opinions on a specific whiskey, and if you stick around to the end, I'll be giving it a score as well. If that sounds interesting, hit subscribe down below. And with that out of the way, let's jump into our review. Today we're looking at the Craigellachie 17. Stick around. Alright, so this is a review that I've been wanting to get around to for some time. I've got the Craigellachie 17 here. If you're familiar with this channel, then you might know that I really love this guy's younger brother, the Craigellachie 13. I love it so much that it was actually my whiskey of the year last year. It's a fantastic budget pick, really fun stuff. I have reviewed that one before. Obviously, I loved it. It's really excellent stuff. It's dirty, it's rugged, it's full, it's naturally presented, it's characterful, and it's affordable. It's pretty much everything you'd want in an entry-level whiskey. So it's only natural that I do a follow-up with the 17, albeit a year later. This one came out in 2014, and it hasn't really made any big waves so far, at least not like the 13, but it is something that's pretty well respected by the whiskey community. It does seem like a lot of people get curious about this one after falling in love with the 13. And it's interesting stuff. It is different. The 13 seems to have spent a lot more time in stuff like refill bourbon casks. Meanwhile, our 17 here, while they don't actually disclose the casks that they use, which is unfortunate, it does seem to have a bit more of a sherry touch, if I were to hazard a guess. And I'm hazarding. These guys are known for their very bold spirit, which a lot of people attribute to their use of copper worm tubs. They also grind their barley down more than most other distilleries, and they also use a unique mash tun called a Steinecker mash tun, and apparently that holds on to less water and dilutes the barley a little bit less. And I think they also use a local cooperage, so there's a lot of like fun little facts for us whiskey nerds. Anyway, I've blabbed on enough. You guys are here for the review. I have had a lot of people request this one, so let's not waste time. Let's jump in. And in the meantime, if you could kindly leave a like down below, that'd be greatly appreciated. For our specs, this one comes in at 46% ABV. It is non-chill filtered, and unfortunately, they don't tell us anywhere on the label if it's colored or not, but it isn't. It's not a colored whiskey. It is a natural whiskey. They just don't mention it. And just why? Why would you not want to share that? Who is making these decisions? I don't understand. I want to talk to Craig. So we do have a nice color here. These bottles, I didn't love them at first. I said they were kind of try hard, and they are, but I've since warmed up to them. I do like the sort of old-timey look, the Victorian poster. I think it's cool. Presentation will give 4.5 out of 5. No mention of color or chill filtration here on the label. The sleeve over there does mention that it's non-chill filtered, but still nothing about color. It does talk about the worm tubs and the Steinecker mash tun, so there's a bunch of cool nerdy info on the back, but would it kill you to mention that it's a natural color or what casks you used? The answer to that is no. God damn it, Craig. It's a nice bottle, though. I didn't add water. Let's try our nose. Okay, it's Craigellachie. It's Craigellachie with sherry. Yeah, we have that dirty, somewhat funky distillate in here. I'm getting barley, I'm getting that grilled pineapple note. We have oily rags, we have like sherried dried red fruits. We've also got apple crumble, we've got rum balls, there's baking spices. The sherry isn't too heavy or too overpowering here. It's still kept a little bit of that spirity character, which is great. Now our palate. Oily, spicy, sharp. It's got a nice bite to it. Craigellachie is not for beginners. This is a dirty whiskey. It's also salty, it's meaty, it's rich. We've got dried fruits in here, we've got apricots, we've got oak spice. Again, it's very spicy, it's tart, it's big. This is fun stuff. And now our finish. Okay. More from the distillate here. More of that grilled pineapple, those oily rags, more shades of like the 13 coming through. This is a very familiar flavor here. It's metallic, it's sharp, it's grainy. We've got spicy ginger in here, spicy oak. There's fennel, there's oatmeal, there's like herbal grassy notes in here. you really could spend an hour just digging flavors out of this. It's a medium finish. Yeah, so this stuff, definitely not for beginners. It is a little bit similar to the 13 in the sense that it's not an easy whiskey, it's not a pretty whiskey, but it is deeply rewarding. And it's also really complex. I would say that this is one of the more complex whiskeys I've got on my shelf, in fact. But it will divide people. You know, it's going to be a love it or hate it thing. But regardless of whether you love it or hate it, you are not going to be bored. You could throw a lot of adjectives at this whiskey, but bland and generic will not be among them. So obviously there are a lot of things I like about this whiskey, and we'll start with the meatiness. This is a meaty whiskey. The go-to comparison there is always a Mortlach, so fine, this is meaty like a Mortlach. It's definitely not clean like a modern Mortlach, but we do have these rich notes, these metallic notes, these mineral notes that are kind of reminiscent of like a bloody slab of steak. It's also spirity, and I really love when you have an older whiskey like that and the distillate still shines. Especially when there's sherry involved, which risks overwhelming a lot of those distillate flavors. That's not the case here. The sherry is really well integrated. The sherry influence here does exactly what you want it to do, which is add some nice layers of flavor and intensity while not taking over the experience. And I think for those of you who've had the 13, who like the 13, you'll instantly recognize the 17 as being Craigellachie. It is a very distinctive spirit. It's a dirty, brash distillate, and neither the 17 years of age or the sherry casks tamed any of that here. As I mentioned, this is a rough whiskey. It is not smooth. It is not polite. You have that spirity sharpness in there. It's also spicy and grainy. And even with the sherry touch, it's not a gentle, sweet, or rounded whiskey. It's big, it's robust, it's challenging. What a star. And listen, I personally don't really have any criticisms here. And besides having a very rugged character that I've already talked about, I do think there are some aspects of this whiskey that some people might take issue with. So let's talk about those. Beyond the sharp and spirity thing, there is also a metallic note in this whiskey, likely from the copper worm tub condensers, but it is a thing, so be aware of it. And also, this is a whiskey that takes time. And I don't just mean it takes time to open up, it takes time for you to adjust to it. Like even me, it took me a while. I did not love it at first. And that happened to me with the 13 as well. The first bottle I bought was ages ago, and honestly, I didn't really like it. Eventually, of course, I did come back to it. And even when I did, the first half of the bottle, I wasn't really sold. I only really fell in love in the second half of the bottle. Craigellachie is just not an easy whiskey to love, and you do have to spend time with it. And even if you do, there's no guarantee. So it is something that will divide people. Again, don't give this to a first-time whiskey drinker, and even experienced drinkers. Like, I like to think I know my shit, but this took some time. This is a whiskey that will challenge you. But now I absolutely love it. I think this is fantastic. My score for this is going to be 91. Now, do I like this more than the 13? That is a really tough question, but I'm going to say yes. I mentioned earlier that in my initial review of the 13, I scored it too low. I would score the 13 a 90. I do like it that much. Again, this one's 91, so it does get that extra point for those added layers and complexity. I do really like what the age and the sherry have done here, but I should say that it is still a mood thing. Even though I think this is a more interesting whiskey, sometimes I just find myself reaching for the 13. I love the 13. And of course, we do need to consider value. So in my market, this is over double the price of the 13. Now, is it worth that much? For me, I would say yes, but I am on the fence. I think more objectively speaking, it is a tough sell. Obviously, the word objectively has no place in a whiskey review, but you know what I mean. I think the 13 gives us 85 to 90% of the experience that we're getting with the 17, but still, I really do like the 17 and I would buy it again, but that's only because I'm such a huge fan of this brand. If you're on a budget and you want a Craigellachie experience, you should definitely be starting with the 13. And if you're enamored with it like I was, then you might want to start branching out and exploring the brand a little bit more. And eventually you might think it's worth dishing out for the 17. But yeah, definitely start with the 13. All right, that's it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to help support the channel, please consider becoming a patron. Otherwise, you can like, comment, and subscribe. And of course, I do want to hear from you. Have you tried Craigellachie 17 here? How would you compare it to the 13? Do you think it's worth a bump in price? Let me know. And finally, down below in the comments, you can let me know what you want to see me review next. And I'll keep it in mind for my upcoming videos. Bye, guys.